Gajananam Budaganadi Sevitam Kapita Jambu Parasara Pakshitam Umasutam Shokavinasha Karanam Namami Vigneshwara Parapankajam Shadaranam Kumkumarakdevanam Mam Tindriya Mayurvaganam Rudrasya Sunam Surasanyanatam Guham Saram Sharanam Prapadye Ya Kudendutu Sarara Devalaya Suranastravita Ya Vinavaradanda Mantitakara Ya Sveta Padmasana Ya Brahmashuta Shankara Prabhupada Devaisara Pujita Samanta Patu Sarasvati Bhagavati Nishesha Jajapaha Om Namah Shivaya Gurave Sachidananda Murtaye Nishpapanchaya Shantaya Shri Shivanandaya Te Namaha Sri Vishnu Devanandaya Te Namaha Om Savaramangalam Mangliye Shive Savartha Sadike Shayane Karambake Gauri Narayani Namostate Narayani Namostate Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Vanatu Sahaguryam Karavavahi Tejasvinavati Tamastu Mahavidvishavai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome everyone. So basically what we're doing is the discussion is based on enlightenment. So basically the goal of human birth. So we take birth, it's said in yogic literature, numerous times until we realize that we're pure consciousness. This is the basis for all yoga. This is technically the basis for all religion. And what religion is just a formulated way of creating the spiritual experience. So to bring you within. Spirituality is, I guess, basically the same thing as well. They're kind of synonymous. So basically in yoga, and they say that this is just a play of relativity. So there's a you, there's a me, but technically these are just making each other real. They're giving the illusion that there's a you and a me. So it's just a play. But in fact, what's common between all of us is consciousness. So basically, like how you're viewing me and I'm viewing you, there's that's what's common between us. It's like electricity. Imagine you were a refrigerator and I was a washing machine. What turns them both on is electricity. That's consciousness. So in about 1 minute, we've just proven Einstein's theory of relativity, and we've proven that yoga is real. So the philosophy of yoga is true. So basically then, we're left with what to do. So they say that like spiritual practices like meditation, yoga, being a good person, these little things over time accumulate to the point where we experience consciousness directly, where we lose all our body awareness, emotional awareness, all these things, they just melt away, and the only thing that's left is me, pure consciousness. And then what goes on from there is basically we begin to see oneness in all of us. Instead of seeing separateness, instead of like how I was driving over here and getting annoyed at people driving the speed limit, we begin to see that, no, that's an extension of myself. It's like, if the right hand hurts the left hand, does the left hand get angry at the right hand? No, because it's part of the same body. So it's the same thing. That's oneness. So that's basically yoga in a nutshell. That's philosophy in a nutshell. So they say that most people, it takes hundreds of births to even say the word yoga. It takes hundreds of human births. And depending on what our focus is, determines when our next birth is. This is theory. I can't say I have direct perception of this, but the theory is useful in understanding how life works. So, so that's basically yoga in a nutshell. So then basically, like I was saying, what to do. So what are we going to do now? So basically, is we look for the experience of pure consciousness in little things, in our likes and our dislikes. We say we like this person because it makes us feel some sort of joy. That proves also that joy and happiness is our true state. We seek the things that give us that experience, and we are aversive to the things that cause the opposite. So basically, they say then as we progress is that our likes and our dislikes start to wean away. And what's left is basically contentment. So contentment's twofold, because we shouldn't be content with our experience of life right now. We should be striving for a higher ideal internally. This, so says yoga. And if we don't feel a burning desire for self-realization, for enlightenment, don't worry, because it's eventually going to happen. Eventually, life pinpoints us to the point where we just suffer, where we don't get satisfaction at anything. Maybe we get a birth where we don't have many friends, or nothing. Partners that pass away, children that pass away. Really horrific events, to pinpoint us to the point where we have nowhere else to look but within. So, yeah. So it's not a depressing thing. It's not a depressing thing. It's a happy thing, because we're here having this conversation right now. And to even be talking about this, you need to have tremendous good karma. Tremendous good karma. So it means it's very good for all of us. No, it's very good. So then basically that's it, is that nature in her own way evolves us. That's what nature does. It happens. That's why, it happens. It happens. It just does. They say it can take thousands of lifetimes before we realize God, before we get we see God directly, our own true nature. But it can happen in this very birth. If we're having this conversation already, it means very good for in our favor. We could be on our last 2, 3, 5 handful. So that's very good. So the point is that basically they say that moreover than just contentment is that there's the experience of bliss. So imagine if like you're maybe months away from home and you're really excited about going home and seeing friends. Imagine if you could feel that way all the time, but regardless of whatever the circumstances you were. Imagine you're getting indicted for a bad traffic fine or something like that, but you still feel joy. Like the cops pulling you over and I'm wondering if you're high or something, but you're just full of joy. Like that's basically the efficacy and why there is self-realization. So the reason I talk about these things is because we don't hear about it much. I didn't learn about self-realization until I was 21, and that's pretty shameful for our culture, because it's the education's here. Like one of my gurus, Swami Vishnudevanandaji, came over in '58 when he was 30 years old, and with the instructions from his guru from India, who said that people from the East are incarnating in the West and they need yoga. So Swami Vishnu came over here and taught Hatha Yoga, and was probably one of the first ones to start teacher training courses, which we have plenty now. We have Ashtanga, Vinyasa, this, but they all pretty well come from the same thing. Swami Vishnu taught a complete yoga, and you go and you basically, in India, this knowledge of what we're talking about right now is basically inundated into you for 12 years straight. They call it the Gurukula system, where a young child will go and live with the guru for 12 years. And at the end of 12 years, whatever their path is, whatever the guru is seeing, will direct them for the rest of their life. So maybe some will be householders, some will be monks, others will be this class or that class rather. They'll be maybe a laborer or maybe a lawyer or higher education of such. But so the thing is so there's lots of spin-offs in what we can, once we set that basis of enlightenment and what are we doing here, where are we going, then we set the basis for a very interesting conversation, because we start to piece together what we're doing in life right now. So basically they say when as our consciousness rises, there's 4 different states. First state is artha, which is basically basic needs. We need housing, we need shelter, food, friends, we need things. We need basic things in life. Does this sound familiar? Is Maslow's hierarchy of self-actualization? Same concept. Well, I wonder where he got it from. One's 5,000 years, one's 60 years old.
What's the same with the chakras?
The chakras are basically, if you guys know acupuncture, well, acupuncture, that's the Chinese version of nadis. They're called nadis. There's 72,000 nadis in the body, and that's why we practice Hatha Yogas, because Hatha Yoga opens up the nadis. So when we become ill or we become sick, it's because the nadis are closed. The meridians are the energy circles. So basically the chakras are just concentrations of nadis. So, and actually there's a very interesting thing with the chakras. If you ever see how they're decorated in flowers and petals, there's 50 letters in the Sanskrit alphabet. And each petal correlates with a letter. So if you count the petals of all the chakras, they'll equal 50. The Anya having 2 and the Sahasrara having, well, so they have 1,000, but it's actually, in the pictures, it's denoted with a number, I think 6 or something like that. So that's why I start off with the prayer, the Gajanana, because it's in Sanskrit and it actually activates. You can actually purify your nadis with Bhakti Yoga, which is Kirtan, which is call and response. So like Hare Rama, Hare Rama. So like Gandhi's mantra was Ram. Ram also correlates with the Manipura chakra, which is your energy center. And he was a lawyer, and he was also a very what's the word I'm looking for here? Not endeavor, but not ambitious. He did a lot of things. Gandhi was about a lot of things, and he was a good guy. He was a good guy. We can say that much. So that's it. So basically, that's artha. Artha is basic needs. The next one is kama, which is legitimate pleasures. So like, going to see a movie, or going for a bicycle ride, or I don't know, anything, going fishing or something that you enjoy. These are legitimate pleasures. We need to have enjoyment in life. Life would be pretty boring if we didn't. If we just did yoga, and that's actually a pitfall, is at some point during our incarnations, we'll strive for the goal so hard that we'll starve ourselves of kind of the first two, which is noble, but at the same time it's not balanced. So what's much more practical for us is having balance. But basically, like I was saying, as your consciousness rises, your focus changes. So we've gone through artha, kama, and the third one is swadharma. This one's very interesting. This is, what do you want to do? If you could do anything in life, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? That's your swadharma. So some want to work for children. Some want to do humanitarian work. Some want to paint. Some want to write music. Some want to work with elderly. Some want to have their own business and employ people, which is also very beneficial to society, especially if you're a good employer, which we know employers can be a pain in the ass. So they can be the cause of our pleasures and our displeasures. So to be a good employer is very good karma. To employ people and help people make money and support themselves is very good karma. So all these things is, what do you really want to do? So that's when our consciousness rises to that point where it's like, I've had enough of working for someone, I want to do this. And it's not even because, even you start to turn down good jobs and good employers, good employment opportunities, because you just want to focus on what you're doing. Like Joe, he's starting a yoga studio, and he's very focused on that. And him and I are in the same case, where we're not selling our services, selling our time to someone for fear of income. So when you start to lose these things, the fear of, I don't care what happens, I'm going to do this no matter what. That's your swadharma. And then the fourth thing is moksha. So basically when our level of consciousness rises, which is the purpose of this conversation, and hopefully at some point in the conversation you will say, yes, that sounds great. then our focus becomes enlightenment. We realize the ephemerality of the world, how it's just passing, how it's fleeting. Pleasures are fleeting. And we realize that the only thing that's lasting is inner contentment gained through strenuous activity, through a strenuous spiritual practice. And that's why people go to ashrams and go on pilgrimages and go travel India and Tibet and go see the Dalai Lama when he comes to Toronto, or my Guru Amma when she comes in July. So that's basically life summed up in about 20 minutes. Yeah. That's a lot of information. But it's in there, don't worry. You won't forget it. You all look very interested and very engaged, so you won't forget it. It'll come up. You'll be driving to work and you'll be like, what am I doing? I remember what Thomas said. That's not good for your employer because they're going to lose a good employee. Sorry. But it's part of evolution. We eventually want to permanently overcome suffering. And they say, if you've suffered, they actually say, like one of my teachers, Geisha Michael Roach, he teaches that if you've had terrible things in your life happen, you're actually blessed. Because terrible things cause us to wake up. If you've had suffering in your life, suffering's a blessing. There's actually a Buddhist prayer that translates to, may I suffer just enough to wake up. Yeah, which is, for me, I feel I've suffered a lot in my life, so that prayer doesn't really resonate with me because I'm still trying to get out of that stuff. You know what I mean? But some people, they have very good lives, and they don't, and then that prayer works for them. So that's another thing. So on practicality, practical spirituality, let's then talk about not yoga, not anything. Who we are right now in this moment. What do we do with it? And basically, whatever you feel like. If you want to go out, like there's some people who do like energy movement through there's a good thing called Silence in Guelph. It's a place where they do like soundscapes and energy and sound healing. And there's another thing called the Big Beat, which happens every equinox in Guelph as well. And basically, there's people, they play like healing music, and people just dance and move and do stuff. And like release energy and that opens up the nadis too. Like that, find what you like. There's actually like 16 paths of yoga. Like Bhakti, Jnana, Karma, and Raja are just the 4 main ones. Raja is where Hatha Yoga is coming from. That's asanas and pranayama. That's the 3rd and the 4th one. Jnana Yoga is the path of wisdom, which is what my focus is. Basically getting enlightenment through the intellectual understanding of these arguments and points. Karma Yoga is selfless service, so going to volunteer. And more importantly, you can be making money and it can still be Karma Yoga. Because you do it with an attitude that I'm devoting my efforts, good and bad, to God. If I make a mistake, I renounce it. If I do something good, I renounce it. I renounce it. And that also leads to the realization that it's God's energy that works through me. I am God, but I don't have that experience. So in humility, I'm offering my services as the only thing that I can offer to the Almighty and the universal God, the universal director, if you will, to bring me to enlightenment, to bring me to my soul's fruition. So, and then of course, Bhakti Yoga is like singing, devotional. It can also be same thing, like offering things, doing actions and offering them, but there's something specific which I'm sure most people here would be interested in called kirtan. And kirtan is chanting. Is like what I did is just an invocation chant, but there's actually like bhajans where they're sung by a leader and by whoever is leading the band. There's usually a harmonium, which is kind of like an accordion, and like tabla, which is a kind of Indian drum, and chimes and stuff. And then they'll sing it, and then we sing it back. So like my guru, she has an ashram in Georgetown, and they do it every Saturday. They do bhajans, an hour of bhajans. And it does the same thing. It's in Indian tongue, which Indian tongue, all Indian languages, there's like 50 Indian languages, and they all have the same 50 letters. But Sanskrit is pronounced slightly different. They're all pronounced slightly different. But Sanskrit is, I forget what it's called, but it's called basically it's called the language of the gods in the Sanskrit phrase. And that's the language in which yoga was disseminated and taught.
It's the highest and purest of languages.
That's what they say. That's what they say. But there's other ones that are close. Like Hebrew. Hebrew's pretty close too. It resonates closer to the chakras as well. So yeah. Did you ever see the Laughing Buddha? The philosophy behind the Laughing Buddha is that once you realize God and you realize your oneness with everything, which can happen in this conversation right now, the only thing left to do is laugh. Laugh at your problems, laugh at your struggles, laugh at the problems and people that focus on problems in the world, because it's not the truth. The truth is purity and light. That's the truth. So there's nothing left to do but laugh.
Very impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I never knew he had all that stuff inside him.
Yeah. Well,
Really good. But I've seen his travels over the years. Like, we've known each other for
6 years.
6 years or something, and I've seen him go to the east, over to India.
Yeah, I lived in India for 5 months.
Madras? Yeah.
I went to Madras, but what I did is I went with my guru Amma, and she puts on programs where like anywhere from 20 to 50, 60,000 people come, and she hugs them all individually. And it's like rapid fire hugs. But she's considered to be an enlightened soul. So they say with yoga is that in order to realize God, in order to become self-realized, we have to meet a living self-realized soul in this lifetime. It's like if you want to become a carpenter or a painter or a musician, you go and you hang out with expert musicians, carpenters, and painters, and that's how you get your technique up. When you study under the tutelage of someone who is a master. Someone who's a master is someone who can bring you from the start to the finish of any path. So like Vishnu Devanandaji was a master of Hatha Yoga. He could bring you from wherever you are to enlightenment through the path of Hatha Yoga, which is the practice of asanas and pranayama, breathing practices. But no, I appreciate what you said, Andrew, and also this only comes out if there's receptive souls. I don't sit around talking like this all day. It doesn't happen that way. It only happens when there's receptivity in the air. And we're blessed to have this space because I didn't know what it was going to be like. I thought the higher ground was going to be open, and people were going to be walking in and out, and I'd be chanting, and people would be walking in like they're taking double takes at me, you know. So no, we're very blessed to have this an intimate space where this knowledge can be talked about. And I think you've all been very receptive, so it goes to show the maturity of your souls. So yeah, that's what I'm about. Yep, nothing left to do but laugh. That's it. That's the whole world. That's the entire. That is all of God's secrets. We just, that we just talked about. God.
Get to the point of a laugh. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's it. There's nothing. God doesn't withhold anything else. Anything else, like how does Mercury revolve around the sun and these things, they become frivolous. This is what men and women of intelligence focus on these days. They use their intelligence for that, which is not wrong, but at the same time, it's like our intelligence should be focusing on why does it matter? No, because we're interested. So that's their swadharma. For some people, that's their swadharma. But a better focus is the nature of the mind. Because basically, as you unravel that, you become more peaceful, more content, more of the time. And that is what ultimately the soul, that is what ultimately we come to. We want to avoid, we want to go beyond suffering. We don't want to suffer anymore. I don't want to ever think someone's a jack a-hole or whatever like that. I don't want to think that about my fellow brethren. I want to be able to see pure consciousness in them, the same consciousness that enlivens my being.
Do you think the ultimate state is light? Like, can you turn into light and travel, like astral project?
They say that actually that is before. So like that's a power they call siddhis. Like when you practice yoga, like asanas and pranayama, you can develop siddhis, which are spiritual powers. You can actually there's one in the autobiography of a yogi. If you ever want a good read, this was the only book on Steve Jobs' notebook, the guy from Apple. This was the only book on his little Kindle. It was the autobiography of the yogi by Yogananda Paramahansa, and basically. There's a saint that could make sense. Now, leading into the next workshop, that can make sense out of anything, could imbue things with sense.
Like make silver come out of his palms?
Well, some saints can
Like
do that.
Sai Baba?
Yeah, Sai Babaji, he was known for manifesting stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, so these kind of things are preliminary. Actually, God, there's two gods. There's God. This is all God. You and I, everything is God. That's God too. This whole thing is, whether we know it or not, we think we have self-will. It is nothing in comparison to God's will, because God can direct you at any time. That's God too. But God one is what we are in nature. That's pure consciousness. And God one is basically beyond relativity. So we can't say it's light, because to say light means darkness. So the closest thing we can relate it to, in the path of Jnana Yoga, is meditating I'm pure light, I'm beyond duality, and stuff like that. And you meditate. That's how. That's
to vibrate your molecules to the point of them spitting out photons. I lived in Little India for 20 years, and I talked to these old Hindi guys, and we had this great conversation about meditation. That you could actually become light and travel at the speed of light through the universe.
Yeah, and it's absolutely true. But what they say, what saints and sages have said, they've warned us about this. They've told us don't aspire to attain siddhis because it's a blockage. You can evolve. You honestly, anytime if we met, if you all studied with me for 2 months, you could all evolve very quickly. If you all stayed with me for 2 years, we could all develop siddhis just through the practice of asanas and pranayama. But from what I've been taught from my TTC and from living in ashrams, we could do it quite easily. We have other obligations, and it's not that easy. It's to just drop everything, and it's actually adharmic, which is against dharma, or against duty, against law, to drop everything when we have other obligations. Say to our grandparents, our parents, other friends, and stuff like that. It'd be adharmic to do so, but we can theoretically do that. And there's many. India is a great place. There's many saints and sages just walking around. But many who practice spiritual practices and attain these siddhis, it's very common over there because they start from such a young age. This philosophy is there as money is to here. Money is like the focus of everything, but over there, they know that God realization is our ultimate focus. And basically, the way the caste system is set up is so that the higher earning income people support the ashrams and the monks because they give our spiritual nourishment, which is more important than physical nourishment. So basically, absolutely, that's true, and there's many recorded. That's what makes. See, this is why what we're talking about. Why my confidence in it anyway is because it's scientific. Something is scientific when it can be replicated in the same environment. That's what science is. Any experiment that can be replicated in the exact environment, and that's why moles and all these figures of measurement and all these things and how we can calculate this, that, and the other thing and create the same thing. Science, yoga is the same way. That's why religion is the same way too. And that's what I was saying in the beginning, is that whether it's Islam, Christianity, or even Rastafarianism or anything like that, by following the practices that they did, you can create the same experience within yourself. So that's basically it. That's why we practice. That is technically why people, it's not the yoga butt. We don't do yoga for the yoga butt. We do yoga to attain enlightenment. But people nowadays do yoga for the yoga butt, which is fine too. That's karma. But as your consciousness evolves, then you do it because you feel better. You feel more, you have more wherewithal to deal with life. And that is because your nadis are opening up, so your consciousness is like peering through. It's like peering through your energetic body. Yeah.
I've been thinking lately, you don't mind me interjecting?
No, not at all.
That if you can attain light, that you vibrate your molecules to the point where they spit out photons and you become light, and you're traveling at the speed of light. And now with quantum mechanics, and you got entanglement together, that it actually makes sense. Quantum mechanics is getting closer to
Proving.
like yogi meditation and the molecular science of the soul.
Yeah, Swami Vishnu was huge on that. He was always doing experiments, always, and he was always working with scientists and like and he put all the things on them, all the wires, and get readings of him meditating and stuff. Yeah, there's a great movie out there. It's really old, actually. I think it's from the 80s. It's called What the Bleep Do We Know? Yeah, and it basically proves everything. It proves spirituality, and it proves what monks do, and the efficacy behind meditation, and how much of an instrument it turns your mind into for being able to generate peace, love, and all this great stuff.
It's like water molecules, right? But
yeah. And even just with I love you and I hate you changes the molecules of water. So imagine what Sanskrit does. Imagine what an evening of chanting kirtan does. And there's lots of places that do it. You can find it on meetups. Like my guru, she's got an ashram in Georgetown. They do it on Saturdays. Joe and I were just there on Tuesday at the Hare Krishna temple in Toronto, and they do a beautiful chanting there. Joe's got some beads from there. He's got a mala that they gave him completely free. They give Bhagavad Gitas, which should be a $30 book, for $5, just to disseminate this knowledge. Such is the grace and such is the empathy of sadgurus, or enlightened souls, and the missions that they started and left. Because the A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has been left his body, I think, in the 80s. And his ashram, his mission, is still going strong. He's got his monks everywhere. Joe met one of his monks. He's the walking monk. He's walked across Canada 4 or 5 times, just chanting mantras and blessing people. Yeah. So this is what I do all day.
I'll vouch for that. That's what all of us do that all day.
Yeah, that's it.
That's not very, you seem to sleep a lot too.
I sleep a lot. When I'm not doing this, I sleep a lot. It's like, yeah. Yeah. So peace is our nature. Peace is our true identity. Peace is what we really are. But, I could give more information actually. So basically in yogic scriptures, in the Upanishads, there's 12 Upanishads and 4 Vedas that make up the basis for spirituality, make up the basis for yoga in India. And they say that the earth is on, or not the earth rather, but the universe, in its entirety, is on a 4,320,000 year cycle, where it goes through 4 stages, ad infinitum, over and over again. It's a golden, silver, bronze, and iron age. Right now we're in the iron age, where the proliferation of ignorance is widely spread, where we forget our divine nature, we forget that we're spirit, we forget that we're energy. And yeah, that's basically it. And in the golden age, on the other side, is basically we are aware of that. I don't even think we have physical bodies. Physical bodies are a result of our soul's ignorance. We take a physical body to sometimes do dharma, which is basically do good things, take a body to do good things amongst human beings, lesser evolved souls, and to earn more karma for our own evolution. That's basically it. So that's basically it. That's the reason. So that's why we shouldn't fret about Donald Trump and these people and wars and stuff like that. Because it's not the reality. That's just fear-mongering. That's not the reality. The ultimate reality is goodness and planned activities. So there is death. So there is war. But what about all the good stuff? What about all the missions? What about all the ashrams? What about all the people going to church on Sunday? And I mean ardent people, like truly religious people. People that are good people, not just go to church on Sunday, beat your wife on Monday. Not that. But I mean true spirituality. There's so much goodness, but the level of consciousness is that most people are just interested to hear who's done something wrong. And isn't it true, like even in our upbringing, whenever we did something wrong, that was one of the biggest upheaval in our households are, oh, yeah, you're in trouble, or how could you do this, or how could you crash the car, or how could you sneak out like that, how could you? And that's just the biggest thing. It's not, have you meditated today? Have you done something good for someone today? And questions like that, it's just not there. So this is a period of suffering. We're suffering because it's not widely proliferated, it's not widely disseminated, the spiritual knowledge. But it's been in the West since 1918 something when Swami Vivekananda came over and addressed the World Conference. Swami Vivekananda, who was a big proprietor of Jnana Yoga, came over in 1884 or something like that for the World Religions Conference in Washington, D.C. And they gave him 5 minutes to speak. And 5 minutes turned to 10 minutes, turned to an hour, turned to a week long of seminars. A random guy from India, the first time an Indian saint had ever come over to the West. And then Yogananda Paramahansa came over in like 1912 and stayed here for 25 years straight. And he taught Kriya Yoga, which is a process of meditation to scientifically evolve yourself quickly. And that's taught. And you can do it. They got to meet up in Guelph. They meet at a little retreat center in Guelph, a Christian place. Swami Vishnu came over in 1958. He's from the Shivananda my bag's over there, but it's on there. He's from he started the Shivananda ashrams, and now they have 12 ashrams around the world, 70 affiliate centers, and they've taught probably about 35,000 yoga students. They have 35,000 graduatees. So it's a huge amount of good that has been done in the world. And here we are having this conversation, giving our best to focus on the point of the conversation and take from it, and let it deeply absorb into us so that it changes us hereafter. And so that our focus becomes on kind of the top three, causing joy for other people, focusing on our Swadharma, and ultimately introducing some sort of whatever into our life that makes us feel more alive. Healthfully, not through drugs and stuff like that.
Is there a process that you follow to find what your Swadharma is?
It happens over time. Swadharma, like for me, it's still revealing itself. Where I went from thinking that I was going to address big businesses and stuff like that, and now I'm much happier talking to you people who are much more focused and much more receptive to the teachings. So basically, yeah, it just happens over time, and that's why we're suffering. I'm suffering too, because I don't have an avenue to be focusing on this all day. I had to wait a year and a half. I've been focusing on this for a year and a half. It's been a year and a half since I decided not to work for someone anymore and actually just focus on my Swadharma. And now this is probably one of the best conversations in a group that I've had in a year and a half. So you gotta imagine, the universe operates on a 4,320,000 year cycle ad infinitum. So what happens is we have to plant the seeds. We plant the seeds through our thoughts, and we plant the seeds through our actions. If you really want to manifest your own dreams, help someone else who wants the same thing that you do to get it first. And that's how you get a karma. All karma is basically like this whole universe is happening in my head. If I didn't have eyes, I wouldn't be able to see this. If I didn't have ears, I wouldn't be able to hear it. If I didn't have a sense of touch, I wouldn't be able to touch it. It wouldn't exist for me. So in order to create the experience of something that you want to happen, you have to help someone else get it first. That's how you get a karmic seed. So if you want money, you must give money to someone who needs it. And the more in need someone is, the more someone wants it, the more seeds you earn. The more powerful seeds that manifest quicker. This is the teachings of Geshe Michael Roach. Geshe Michael Roach I met in the Bahamas when I was living down there at the ashram for 3 months. He gave a discourse. And he talked about this. And the 4-step process. First of all, you can do this when you go home tonight. Write down everything that you want. 5 things. We all basically want the same things. We need a house, we need money, we need food, we need friends, we need a Swadharma, something that keeps us happy that we do during the day, and ultimately we want enlightenment. Or enlightenment. Wouldn't that be nice if you were like the Dalai Lama? Wouldn't that be nice? Going, giving talks around the world, helping thousands of people, inspiring tons of Buddhists to go deeper into their practice. Imagine if we could be that influential. We could. We most certainly could. In a lifetime or two, we most certainly could. So essentially we want those 6 things. So, but anyway, do yourself what you really want. What do you really want? Write it down. And the second thing, write down your problems. So maybe you're struggling with addiction. Maybe you don't have a partner and you want a partner. Maybe you have issues with one of your parents. Maybe you want a child. Maybe you want just a problem that you're having anyway. Maybe you get angry and you don't like getting angry. Maybe you get lonely sometimes and you don't like getting lonely. So write down whatever your problems are. Now, the second point there, so that's the first point. You get karmic seeds just by thinking about what you want. They're not as powerful, but you still get them. And so that's the first point, is to write down what you want. The second point then is to make a plan. Think of someone who who wants the same thing. The first 6 are pretty easy. Everyone needs money, everyone needs shelter, everyone needs friends, everyone needs clarity in life and emotional health and all these nice things that make up a balanced person. Everyone needs that. So just by being a good person, just by going out with your friends, you're sowing these seeds. But anyway, make a plan. Geshe Michael Roach says ideally, take them to a coffee house. Go to a neutral place and talk about whatever your problem is, or talk about your swadharma, or talk about how you're trying to start something, and this talk you heard at the Higher Ground on Thursday night by this guy named Thomas. Please please subscribe to YouTube. Anyway, so that's the second point. Make a plan. So you get more karmic seeds just by making the plan. Then the third thing is to implement it. Take the person out for coffee, do whatever, go to an old age home. They say, Geshe Michael says, if you want to get a partner, go to an old age home, find someone that's lonely. Find an old senior that's lonely and go and spend an hour with them once a week for a couple weeks. And you are planting the seed for your partner. Perfect boyfriend, perfect girlfriend. You're sowing the seed for them. So that's the third point, so doing the action. The fourth point then is the magical point, and how we multiply all these seeds that we earn and make them sprout quicker. Is at the end of your day, reflect on how you help someone else get what you want, and how you help someone else overcome what you're trying to overcome. And you multiply all the seeds you earned in the first three processes. This is coming from the same lineage of the Dalai Lama. The same lineage the Dalai Lama is in. The Dalai Lama the Dalai Lama's Lama was the Lama of Geshe Michael Roach's Lama. So Geshe Michael is just one below the Dalai Lama. And so this is a pretty authoritative, this is coming from the Buddhist scriptures, straight out of it. This is the cream, this is the distilled purity of the Buddhist scriptures for how to create proliferation in our own lives. See what time we're at?
One of the most powerful books I've ever read, and I was born and raised Roman Catholic, was a book that Thomas gave me. It was called Karmic Garden. And it's a very powerful foundation that will not crumble in changing your life. And he gave it to me to read, and every morning I read so many pages, and I did that faithfully, and when I got to the end of it, I missed the book. So I started reading it over again, and it became a habit. I did this for a few years, and I just gave it back to him this year, and I missed it.
And now Amanda has it.
Oh, you have the book? It's incredible.
It's a
The most powerful book I've ever read.
it's a 42-page book with pictures and everything.
It's incredible.
And you can download it for free. I have the link on my website.
It's incredible.
Just 42 pages. You can read it in an hour, and it tells
It's
you
called again what?
Karmic Gardening.
karmic gardening. So basically, our subconscious, which is basically what's absorbing everything that's happening here, and what we process when we're sleeping, is basically a landscape, and we can sow the seeds for what manifests in our waking state through the process of helping someone else to attain it first.
Well, see, I planted my karmic seed because I missed the book. Now I knew all along I could have downloaded it.
Yeah.
I get my book back.
Yeah, print it off, but it's on my website. You guys, anyone can find the link. It's just Atman Yoga, ATMAN Yoga and Karmic Gardening. Google it and you'll find it for free. It's a free download. It's a PDF file. And these are someone that was inspired by Geshe Michael from the talk that they heard give at the Shivananda ashram, which is the TTC that I did and the ashrams that I lived in for a year. See how it all? Everything's pretty close knit. So yeah. Yeah. So we should do this again sometime. The conversation won't change much, but we will. For sure. Stuff changes. Life changes us from month to month. The way the seasons work on us, they change us. And now we've all hopefully been changed for the better. That's right.
Right on, Tom. That was fantastic. Really good.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew.
I'm glad I got it. I'm glad I made it.
I can end with a prayer as well. Okay. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandham Pustavardhanam Urvarakmyavandanam Mrityor Mokshirmam Ritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandham Pustavardhanam Urvarakmyavandanam Mrityor Mokshirmam Ritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandham Pustavardhanam Urvarakmyavandanam Mrityor Mokshirmam Ritat Om Sarvesham Swasti Bhavatu Sarvesham Shanti Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarve Bhavatu Sukhina, Sarve Santi Niramaya, Sarve Bandharani Pashantu, Mankashe Dukapa Bhavet, Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityoma Mritam Gamaya, Om Purnamara Purnamira Purnat, Purnamudachite, Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishishate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you, everyone.